Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So tonight we have two speakers for our panel. First, I'll introduce Merianne Drew, and she's a holistic nutrition coach and relationship coach serving moms in the East Valley. She trained through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and Genesis Energetic Health, and Merianne earned a Bachelor of Arts in English from Arizona State University. We won't hold that against you for those of us that Wildcats, but Peggy, right? Her insatiable curiosity and desire for truth keeps her up late researching facts about health and wellness to better serve her clients and community. And Merianne is knowledgeable in the areas of biology, spirituality, immunology, psychology, metaphysics, nutrition, food science, gastroenterology, autoimmunology, and behavior modification. And Merianne is active with the nonprofit GMOFree Arizona, educating the public about food through lectures, workshops, and public events. Merianne also volunteers with the nonprofit Voices for Casa Children and is an Arizona resident and has been for 27 years. She's a wife. Her husband's here with us as well tonight. And they've been married for 11 years, and she's the mother of 3 children, ages 5, 4, and 2. And in her free time, she likes to read, sing, karaoke, and watch inspiring movies, so maybe we'll get a little singing out of her later. But at this time, if we could please welcome Merianne up here. And then our next panelist is the director of the Arizona Department of Agriculture, Mark Killian. And Mark was appointed by Governor Doug Ducey in 2015. He's been involved in Arizona state government since 1983, so been around the block a few times. He was first elected to the House of Representatives at the young age of 27. So for the young people in here, you can start now. Don't have to wait. He's served as the vice chairman of the Agriculture Committee when he first got into the legislature. And that was followed by multiple leadership positions, including Republican Majority Leader and Speaker of the House. And he served in that capacity for 2 terms. While in his leadership positions, he was awarded the Republican Legislator of the Year award and recognized as the Public Official of the Year by Governing Magazine. Mr. Killian comes from a family that has been involved in agriculture in Arizona for more than 100 years. His family has been involved in farming and ranching operations spanning from Colorado, New Mexico, Kentucky, and California. And currently the Killian family is farming 1,500 acres of land in Pinal County, Arizona, as well as ranching in Graham and Cochise counties in Arizona, and the ranching operations run cattle on 160,000 acres of land with a cow herd of 500. Mr. Killian also owns and operates a registered Angus cattle herd that produces bulls for the family ranching operation and markets to local ranchers in Arizona. He not only works in agriculture, but he and his brother own and operate a commercial real estate brokerage. And Mr. Killian is also the chairman of the Green Reservoir Flood Control District and chairman of the Lower Santa Cruz River Alliance. And he's also been active in Boy Scouts, earning his Eagle Scout Award and serving in many youth and adult leadership positions. He's also married, and his wife Nancy comes from a long-time farming family in Arizona. And they've been married for 39 years, and they have 6 children and 11 grandchildren. And Mr. Killian earned his bachelor's degree in business administration with a specialization of real estate and urban planning, also from ASU. So looks like, you know, we got an even match. We got a couple of Devils here and a couple of Wildcats. So at this time, if I could invite Mr. Killian up, and we'll go ahead and get started. As he's making his way up, just to let you know what the format that we're going to be doing tonight, we're going to have 5 questions. Each question, the panelists will get 2 minutes. Jessica, do you need 1 minute, 30 minutes?
Yes.
Or 30 second rather. That'd be me taking the 30.
So I'm going to be over here as the timekeeper, so you just have to look over here for, can you read this? 1 minute, 30 seconds? Yeah.
Okay. So there's going to be 2 minutes per question. We're going to rotate who starts. 1 minute for rebuttal, and then each candidate will have a 2-minute closing statement at the end. And in that closing statement, they can either hit on answers from the questions, or if there's something that they feel we've missed asking, they can expand on that during that 2-minute Then from there, the last 15 minutes, we'll be opening it up to the audience so that any of you can ask questions that we may not have thought of asking. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. And why don't we start with ladies first? So we'll start with the first question we have is, do you believe organic food is more nutritious than GMO foods? Why or why not?
Would you like the microphone? Sure. Yeah, actually, it's been proven in multiple studies that organic foods are more nutritious. They're more nutrient dense in lots of different vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin C, especially magnesium. The reasons why I can go into the biochemistry, but glyphosate is sprayed on GMO crops. And what glyphosate does, it's a mineral chelator. Okay, so that means it hugs minerals in the soil and doesn't let them go to make them bioavailable to the plants or to us. So the plants can't absorb them from the soil. So yes, organic foods are more nutrient dense, and dollar per dollar, they're cheaper that way because there's more nutrients.
I'm supposed to debate this nice lady? It's not fair.
Oh, if anybody needs the documentation on those studies, please go to our website, GMOFree.org.
A couple of things. You know, ASU has spent an awful lot of money on the whole issue of nutrition, and you need to be commended for what you do. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we face in Arizona today is we have a high rate of obesity and diabetes. And one of the governor's efforts that we're heading up at the Department of Agriculture is reducing what we call food deserts, because we have a lot of urban areas and rural areas where people do not have a chance to get fresh fruits and vegetables. And it's a proven fact that when people are able to, particularly children, are able to get fresh fruits and vegetables, red meat, eggs, milk, their test scores go up. In fact, UCLA had a study that showed students improved by over 45 points on test scores because of having access to proper foods. And I would agree with you, we don't want people living on fast food. We don't want them getting all their food from the local Circle K. They need real food. Now, as the Director of the Department of Agriculture, we advocate for all agriculture. We advocate for organics. We advocate for all natural. In organics, there's several different things that deals with organics, certified, uncertified, and depends on who's growing it. We support GMOs. We support all forms of agriculture. And here's the reason why. In the next 40 years, there will be 10 billion people in this world. And we cannot possibly feed all those people unless we are able to increase agriculture's output and production. The American farmer is going to have to double their production with less water, with less resources. And the way we're going to be able to do that is the advancements in technology, which includes GMOs, which includes other forms of modification of crops and animals. And I have so much to say.
You can do it in the rebuttal.
Okay. So anyway,
So Merianne, do you have rebuttal for that?
Yes, I do. No genetically modified crops have been designed to deliver higher yields. Pesticide-producing crops, for instance, can only increase yields temporarily by reducing losses to pests in the years of high pest infestation. Genetic modification has not improved the yield potential. Okay, that's the maximum yield possible of crops, as this depends more on the breeding stock used to carry the genes. And conversely, reduced yields have been attributed to the GM insertion process. So this argument that genetically modified crops will feed the world is it's a myth. For example, Western European countries have achieved higher average maize corn yields per hectare than the predominantly GM maize systems in the US, and Western Europe has also outperformed Canada's genetically modified rapeseed yields. 500 million small-scale farms worldwide support 2 billion people. That's a big portion of our population. They produce about 80% of the food consumed in Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. It's not a supply issue. It's an economic security issue. So the key to tackling hunger is not a supply issue. It never has been. It's an economic issue. The key to tackling hunger is securing the livelihoods of food insecure communities, not producing bulk commodities for global supply chains in ways that undermine their livelihoods, food systems, and natural resource base.
Do you like donuts? I'm just kidding.
I used to. I used to. I like them way more than cake.
A couple of things. One, we grow GMO crops, and yes, the yields do go up. And in fact, significantly. And not only that,
Can you point the mic on?
sure, not only that, we use less pesticides, particularly on BT cotton and alfalfa, which is something that we want to do. And so to a large degree, when you get into some of the other fruit products that have been produced by GMOs, yes, their yields do go up, and there's arguments over that. But the bottom line is, just recently, there was 121 Nobel laureates who signed a letter that indicated that the people who are advocating against GMO crops are, I don't want to use the word misguided, but are caught up in the hysteria of the term genetically modified crops. And they asked the World Health Organization, the UN, to reverse their policies on this. One of the crops that seems to be caught up in the
We'll give you 10 seconds more since she got a little extra.
is golden rice. And that's a great example of a genetically modified crop that is having a tremendous impact on people in Asia. And so anyway, and
Golden rice
I
is a
heard,
failure.
you know what I heard that she believes in? That you were going to make donuts at the top of the food pyramid. Is that
Yeah, golden rice. Actually, can I rebut really quick?
Well,
Golden rice is a failure. It's been proven to be a
Actually, why don't we
failure.
go into the next question, and I
Okay.
think you guys will be able to.
I have the documentation
Okay,
right here.
so our next question,
that's
actually,
you
Mr.
first.
Killian gets to go first. Since organic crops are often treated with herbicides and pesticides that have been shown to be harmful to human health, can organic really be seen as being safer than conventional GMO crops?
No, ask that, what's that, say that again?
Since organic crops are often treated with herbicides and pesticides that have been shown to be harmful to human health, can organic be really seen as being safer than conventional GMO crops?
Well, first of all, the answer is no. And in fact, on both counts. There are strict withdrawal periods, particularly on vegetables, and the use of herbicides and pesticides. Under the 2011 Food Safety Act, we have changed that dramatically in this country. And to a large degree, particularly in the produce industry in Arizona, we probably in Yuma, the largest amount of produce that's grown, well, 90% of the produce grown in America from November to May 1st comes from Yuma. I don't know if any of you know that. And there are very strict standards by which they have to follow in order to apply those pesticides and herbicides. And if they don't, whole crops can be condemned. Not only that, the extent that we go to sanitize the tools that we use to harvest the crops. And not only that, but we also, in some of these crops where geese and ducks and other birds land in, and they go to the bathroom on those crops, they'll condemn whole fields. Some of you will remember the problems we had with baby spinach back in 2006 that were contaminated with salmonella and E. coli. But when they did the research, they found out that E. coli came from a bunch of javelinas that were running up and down the fields, going to the bathroom, spinach, okay? So because of that, and also because of the listeria that was found on cantaloupes grown in Colorado, because the farmer didn't turn the manure under like they should have, it's changed the whole produce industry. And so the standards by which we operate now are more stringent than they've ever been. The produce that you receive now, whether it's organic or standard grown, is safer now than it has ever been, and we're just beginning to increase those standards. And so I would tell you that you can eat all the broccoli and squash and pumpkins you want, and you won't turn green.
All right, so the topic of herbicides and pesticides. 250 million pounds of the herbicide Roundup is sprayed on crops annually in the United States. It's banned in Europe. Atrazine, that's the most used pesticide or herbicide. Atrazine is the second most used herbicide, and it's banned in Europe as well. It's banned in Switzerland, the country where atrazine is produced. Glyphosate is not included in the U.S. government's testing of food for pesticide residues or the monitoring of chemicals in human blood and tissues. As a result, there's no information on how much people are exposed to from using it in their yards, living near farms, or eating foods from treated fields. This is in the National Geographic magazine. It has been shown that glyphosate can stay showing up in soil up to 3 years after being sprayed, and atrazine is very potent in water, and both herbicides have been found in groundwater, soil, topsoil water, and our rivers and our drinking water. Glyphosate, in a study in Australia, was found to mutate the cells that produce progesterone in women. That is a hormone that is needed to sustain pregnancy. And those cells died under the concentrations of Roundup, the whole herbicide, not just glyphosate, its active ingredient. Glyphosate is studied and evaluated by the government solely, the active ingredient, and it's considered that the other ingredients in Roundup are inert. So they don't study Roundup, the whole herbicide, together and its effects on human health. They found in Australia that at levels allowed by the EPA in our drinking water, 3 parts per billion, it created this cell death of those JAG cells that create progesterone in women. So this is a problem. I could talk a lot more about atrazine, but I know I'm almost out of time. But what it does is it creates female eggs in the testicles of frogs. And it creates an imbalance of testosterone to estrogen, more estrogen. That's a problem with estrogen-dependent cancers in human health.
Frogs?
Yeah, amphibians.
Well, okay.